Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Culture Kings. Hey, we are the Kings that are in the house with you. DJ Ronald Smith, Ron Stop, Dorian Edwards, and William Stokes, Quiet Storm. He'll be in a few celebrate his pre-celebration birthday. But hey, we are here, so y'all spread the word. Hey fellas, hey Kings, what's going on?
What's happening, King?
Hey, yo, what's good? What's good?
Yes,
Excited for today. Excited.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yes, man, we're excited to talk to our guests today, and we're gonna bring them up in a few minutes here. But you all spread the word out there, share this video. All right, those who are on the Culture Kings page, go ahead on and tell folks we are on. We are live, and we're about to have some great dialogue going on here. All right, is there any announcements that we have, fellas? Anything real quick?
No, nothing on my end.
Just no. Outside of all of the entanglements that are going on right now.
I thought we were gonna take the high roll and not touch entanglement, man.
We're going to just remind viewers to remember to say Breonna Taylor's name.
That's it, Brianna.
That's good. That's good.
Right. All right. Well, hey, Dorian, go ahead on and bring up our guests, man.
Awesome. Well, folks, welcome again to Culture King broadcast to the Royal Rhetoric Show. This afternoon, we have a special guest, a man who is near and dear to my heart, my father-in-law, who I affectionately call Dad. My kids call him Babu. It's Swahili for grandfather. Babu or Henry or Hank, depending upon where you know him from. Well-rounded individual. A man who also loves God, takes he takes everything very serious in regards to education, activism, and also entrepreneurship. So if you've ever seen me around in a tailored suit and it's hugging me real well, it came from my dad. Crevettes Custom Clothing is there in Sarasota, Florida. The man who makes the t-shirt look real crispy. Without further ado, we introduce to the world Henry Hank Battie, or again, my dad, and also Babu.
Welcome. Yeah, man, Mr. Battie. Mr. Battie.
Hank is fine.
All right, hey, I want to be disrespectful.
I understand, but Hank is fine.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, hey, again, welcome to the Royal Rhetoric here, and we're looking forward to any questions that you all may have out there as we talk with Hank. Hey, feel free to post them and spread the word. Go ahead, Dorian.
Yo, so me and Dad, we have been involved in a lot of conversations, both privately and also with some groups that we share, especially now with having access through Zoom. And we've, in light of what's happened to George Floyd here within the last 4 or 5 weeks, the social activism issues that are going on, Dad and I have been, just kind of talking about race, equality, and those kind of things. And so, Dad, I just want to start off first. What motivated and continues to motivate you to stay socially active?
A need. I feel a deep need that's what I should do. I remember when I came back home to Sarasota in '74, just first of all looking for a job to support my family. And after doing that and just kind of getting myself set and getting my family set, I had also kind of ventured away from the church, as a lot of us do as young people. And just felt like there was something missing from my life. So the first thing I did was reconnect myself with my church. And then we had a Little League baseball program that sprung up, and playing Little League baseball through Little League baseball myself, as well as high school ball. Just felt like coaching Little League was something I always wanted to do. I had a nephew that my wife and I had brought down from Jersey to try to keep him out of trouble. And so he was playing in another league that was predominantly white, because at the time we didn't have a black Little League program. So taking him to practice and watching the kids, I just saw so much that was missing in terms of basics and what the kids were doing and learning the game. And so when we introduced Little League Baseball to our community, the Black community, I was one of the first ones to raise my hand because it was something I always wanted to do. However, after getting involved with the kids, I found that so many of them came from broken homes, single family homes, mothers usually. I found these kids needed more something other than just baseball. So doing something that I wanted to do kind of evolved into something that I felt like I had to do. So I got really involved with the kids in their lives and schoolwork and all of this. And, everything else just morphed from there. And, I've been children's advocate ever since, in my Sunday school at church. We have a program called the Y Achievers that was sponsored by the YMCA. So I got involved with that, mentoring kids. And then I'm a big brother, with big brothers, big sisters. Right. So it's just, a need that I feel like I need to do. And I think that's something we all need to do. We need to reach back and, especially work with our kids. Man, and that's what most of my involvement is. I mean, I've been on a couple boards right now. I'm just about a year in as a board member of the Boys and Girls Club, but I've served on other boards as well. That's community activated, not so much about as it relates to youth, but that's where my passion is, working with our young people.
One of the trips that we took to Disney, Dad took his took his little brother with him, and we had a ball. And it was real bright, real smart. Made rockets. I mean, and if anybody needs a battery in their backpack, Dad got it. I mean, anything that might seem small or insignificant to someone else, like he'll really blow that up for you.
He's in his second year of college right now, too, by the way, Ishmael. Yeah.
So where's he go?
Manatee Community College. Well, it's State College of Florida now, and then he wants to transfer to, I think, either Florida State or University of Florida.
Nice.
Oh, no, man, he needs to go to Miami, man. Yeah.
Awesome. So when we're talking about the community at large, talk a little bit about the education component that you and Mama Jean were like really knee deep in as well. I think that's dope too.
Well, Mama Jean, and having taught in the school system for like 30 years, and I'll share this with you guys. Dorian had to beg her, please stop sending books to the kids because he ran out of room to put them. But I mean, she was such a strong advocate for education, and being such, kind of roped me into that too. And I was already working with kids, so education became a big thing to me as well. Because again, working with the kids in Little League, even, I was always encouraging them, look, you need to do your best in school. That's number one. And of course, Dorian know that, I've preached that to my grandkids. And when she died a few years ago, I thought of a way to extend her legacy. So we created a scholarship fund in her name with a $10,000 seed that I started with. And then we put it under the banner of our church. And so since then we have, and that was 2013 or 2012 actually. And since then we've given away close to $50,000 in scholarships to kids.
Nice.
So we feel really good about that.
Nice. Yeah. The scholarship fund in itself, he sends us a brochure of the recipients as well as the kids who've also actually applied. And it's official, like a referee whistle, folks. Like this is not just grabbing bread from somebody. Like you really gonna have to work for it. We appreciate you doing well in school, but in order to be awarded those funds, like you're really gonna have to show and prove. So as we move along this journey and this conversation that we're having, we're talking about education, we're talking about community activism. We get to the primary issue of what you and I have talked about a whole lot, and that's racism and how it's affecting the community as a whole. So Dad, if you could kind of share from your perspective the parallels between what you saw growing up and coming up and to what you're seeing now with the protests that are basically engaging us and being aware of what's going on?
Well, of course, I grew up in a different time of protest, if you will, because I grew up in the 60s during the civil rights movement with Dr. King leading the charge. Guys like John Lewis, Stokely Carmichael. In fact, I was even involved with SNCC when I was in school in New Orleans. And it was different then because there were older people. When I say older people, well, no, I take that back. There were same young kind of people that are involved in these protests now. And of course, the protests were more organized than they seem to be now, because this Black Lives Matter thing, it seems to just be exploding. And there's certain things that I see in terms of protests that I wonder, who's really in charge. We knew back in the day that Dr. King was leading the charge and everything was organized, and you had Malcolm on the other spectrum, but we had clear leaders, and I'm not sure we have that right now. I'm not so sure how the Black Lives Matter are organized, and again, I see instances of almost like mob rule, and I wonder if these people are really involved with Black Lives Matter, but they get labeled as Black Lives Matter protests by the media. So as far as a parallel, I think you see the protests being the same. I just saw more organization during the civil rights movement than I see right now. And the fight is for the same. And that's the sad part of it. We're still fighting for the same equality that we were, 60 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's the shame of it all.
Oh, I would ask, back then, do you think that, and I guess compared to today, do you think that there will ever be any true Black unity coming together, or do you think there will ever be another Black Wall Street or Rosewood or Durham, North Carolina, with the mindset of these Black folks today?
Yeah, that's so hard to answer. I would love to see that, but again, we don't seem to have clear leaders. We have Black people who are extremely wealthy, and they're doing things that are beneficial, but I don't see the organization leading to Black entrepreneurship like I think it should be. And you also have to look at where we were back in the 50s and the 60s, and this is way before you guys' time, in segregated communities when we had Black businesses. Black businesses were supported by Blacks because we didn't have any choice. We couldn't go downtown to the movie theater. We couldn't go downtown to the restaurants. So we had to support each other. I got a good friend of mine who actually loves our community. And when I say our community, I'm talking about the predominantly Black community. And, he's still trying to recreate what we had back. And I said, you can't do that because, the local drugstores, for example, can't compete with the CVS's and the Walgreens. The local drugstores can't compete with the Publix's and, what do you have in North Carolina? Kroger's. We can't compete. So we have to find a different way to compete. And I see it as being in service-oriented industries, but still owned by us.
There you go. Yeah. Wow, that was powerful right there. So why don't you think we have the kind of leadership like they had with King and Malcolm? So,
I don't know, and I asked myself that question. We have them, I think, in positions of leadership when it comes to Congress, like Lewis, for example. But someone was saying the other day, they were talking about leadership then and leadership now. And they were saying that, there were so many, with most of the leaders, there was a reverend in front of the name. There was a reverend, God-driven leadership. And God in all of this plays such an important role, because without him, the sounds cliche, but we can't do anything without him. Right. So we need that right kind of leadership. As much as I love, Al Sharpton, he's a reactionary. He's not out in front leading. When something goes wrong, Al is right there on the spot. But we need somebody that's going to be out there in the front and bringing some organization to our people into the movement. And I just don't see it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I look at that, Hank, because the impact of a King and Malcolm, both their followers, they were strong voices They was really on the same parallel. They didn't know it probably till the end of their lives. And they was just strong voices that people didn't have a problem getting behind. They can motivate people. They was intelligent. They was courageous. And then they was they had an integrity about their cause, per se.
Right.
Oh yeah, exactly. And now that's a key word right there, integrity. Where are the leaders who have that integrity today? You know, I love Jesse, you know, but you know, Jesse got to a point where I think it got to be about Jesse.
Right.
And not so much about the movement. And
Right.
you can almost say the same thing about Sharpton. You know, he got his TV show, you know, and he's on the scene, like I said, when something goes down wrong, but where is he out in front of leadership? And I'm not putting that onus on him that he's got to do that. But I just use him as an example because he's one of the ones who are always out there up front after the fact. Again, I can say the same thing about some of these attorneys. Crump, for example, and I know him personally, but you know, he's on the scene after the fact.
Right.
He can step up to be that kind of catalyst to kind of bring the community and people together.
Again, hey, this is Culture Kings. If you all who are watching like to interject or ask questions or so, feel free. Okay. Again, you know, this is a forum that we want to get you all involved as well. All right. Great. So I think so. Pretty much what you're saying. Well, from what I'm seeing, that you're saying is that you know we need more people to be proactive. We need a leader that's going to be proactive more than just reactive.
Exactly.
Okay.
And also, it sounds like, you know, because we put, you know, we look at that movement back then, we put so much emphasis on these two powerful leaders. Like the average person don't understand that they can make a difference. Like what you're doing, Hank, and working with the kids, and you started with baseball and you brought it out, and y'all got the book ministry, you're sewing books, and so you're seeing that, hey, it'd be nice to have this great national leader to take on this thing and charge with it, but it's something I can do that can impact my community where I'm at. And that difference right there, it spreads. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, I mean, when you talk about the two leaders who were out front, Malcolm and Dr. King, there were other people who were under him who had that integrity, and egos never got in the way. You know, had people like John Lewis, Julian Bond, who John Lewis and Bond, you know, ran against each other for the Georgia legislature, and then they were best friends. And at the end of it all, you know, they still came out friends. There was some tough times going on in between them, but in the end, they remained friends. But it was other people who were underneath King, like John Lewis, Julian Bond, rather. And what's the other guy named? I can't think of his name, but there were no egos, you know. Everybody kind of, I don't want to say knew their place, but everybody had their lane to travel in.
Yeah. Andrew Young, if you were talking about.
Andrew Young, that's exactly who I'm thinking about. Thank you, Ron.
Wow, man. Like the I think like the powerful impact boom from the cannon from you, Dad, was there were no egos.
And yeah, exactly. Well, that's where integrity comes in too.
Right. Because I think now with the influx of individuals having access to social media, though, it gives us an air of confidence to be able to just speak on things without having like a full breadth of knowledge. When you talk about Martin Luther King and you talk about Malcolm X, there was a study that each one of them had, even your Stokely Carmichael's, those individuals had a study prior to coming up to the front, to where knowing what their PowerPoints were going to be within the movement that they were going to be, you know, basically heading right now. And that's one of the things too that we say here on Culture Kings is that before we really get into a topic, we want to dig down deep and actually know about it before we try to speak about it. We can speak on it in regards to like this emotional part, but to actually have information and then also be knowledgeable about the actual subject, it puts us in a different lane. When we talk about that in regards to not only the ego, but the actual like study part, where do we see the church also having impact within this particular venue of social activism, as well as conversations about race?
Okay, repeat that again. You were saying a lot, and I didn't get the essence of it.
Now, so I was just saying, like, where do you see the church having an impact within like the conversations about race and also social activism?
Well, the church, I mean, it's always been the leader, if you will, of movements, especially, for our people. And I think the church has that same role today. The problem I think that you have with some churches is that they are struggling to survive. And they get so caught up in their survival, it's hard to look past anything else. And thank God I'm in a church where, our pastor preaches, you know, ministry. And, with the ministries that we do, it's about everything. And you've listened to some of his messages, especially how he talks about, things that he needs to talk about. And he doesn't talk about race a lot, but when things happen, he'll address it, and he'll address it firmly. But, you've got to serve people. And that's one of the things that I love about our church is the ministries that we have. We have what we call a Day for Hope program, where we bring in kids at the beginning of every school year. We have doctors, we have dentists, we have eye specialists, we have people that come in and they do like a screening for everything that they need before they go to school. We also have backpacks that we give them. We give them bags of lunches. They also get gift cards to go out beyond that. We give them sneakers. So we prepare them for school. And then one of the other ministries that we do is we feed the homeless twice a month on Saturdays. We have ministries within the church, small groups that deal with couples, marriage, singles. So we've got to be about serving the people. And, our pastor always says, we can't wait until we get the money to do it. We just have to do it, and then God will provide the money. And that's been the situation. Because every time we start something new, it's almost immediately money comes in to take care of it. And, it's not solicited. It's just that people recognize what we do. But again, so many churches are in a mode of survival that, they become so, not intentionally, but they become self-serving in order to just stay alive. But the church, I think, as far as not only just race, but, everything, because we do seminars on financial stability, financial planning. So we try to serve, try to minister to every aspect of life. And when you do that, and kids also, I didn't mention, we also have a kids outreach program other than, normal Sunday school. On Tuesday nights, we go out every week. Well, they're not doing it now because of the pandemic and everything is shut down. But we have a community bus that goes out, bring kids in. We have lessons for them. We feed them a hot meal at the end of the night. So it's about, service. And when you do that, and, you're reaching out to the community, and a lot of times you're healing wounds that will take someone to someplace else, and then they can also reach out.
Awesome. Yes. Carlos says ministering to the whole man. So, and that's something that we as a church, that has to be intentional.
Yeah, exactly. And we're intentional about doing it. And that's the reason I said I'm so glad to be a part of that church.
Oh, man. So I was wondering why
you touched on something there. Like I was going to say the same thing Lo said, just taking a holistic approach to ministry, because not only the spirit part of it, but people have emotional needs, physical needs, as far as being hungry, they need clothes. Just helping provide those basic needs is important. We have a saying at our church, people don't know, I might mess it up. Yeah, people don't know how much, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. There you go. You said it right.
Yeah, it's so important. I'm glad that you touched on it. You said there was just some wounds that need to be healed. Just going that holistic approach to ministry, I think is so important. especially to us in our community. But one thing I do want to kind of point out is that um, are do the resolutions are they geared towards unity of races, or like do a lot of stuff kind of further divide us as races? Um, because like a lot of this with Dr. King, Malcolm, like when you mentioned that we're still sort of fighting for the same things. Like I guess I'm gonna have a twofold question. Should that be the case, and the way that we're fighting, is that bringing unity, or is it further segregation or division?
Unity among the races or unity among the country?
Unity among the races. Yeah.
I think we're united in this battle, in
Hmm.
this struggle. I think we always have been. It just seems like it's just more fragmented because, again, I don't know who's in charge of this Black Lives Matter thing, because a lot of things that I see going on, there are groups that are branching off from that. There's this militia group now that's called the Black Panthers. And, I don't know if you guys saw the video. I think it was last week when these armed militia, and these are all black guys, and
Right.
went to Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I have no problem with them, arming themselves, and because that's what the other side is doing. I have no problem with that. But the problem I had with their whole protest was that they were actually baiting the
Right.
other side for a war. And my fear right now, and I share this with my wife quite a bit now, is I'm afraid we're headed toward a racial war. And I really don't want to see that. And as far as some of the demonstrations and protesting that we're doing, there's a lot of it now I think that's counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish. Because as much as I believe in the protests, I don't believe in rioting. I don't believe in looting, because that adds nothing to what we're trying to accomplish. Again, I think is very counterproductive. And you have to put yourself, in the other people's place, because they're fed up, and doesn't make it right. But so hear me what I'm saying. They're fed up from the beginning. These niggas go again. Okay. So when they see more of that and more of that, all it does is it hardens their hearts.
Right.
And I'm saying it's not our position to make them feel comfortable about it. But I'm just saying it's counterproductive to what we're trying to do when we're out there rioting and looting, because that adds nothing to it, especially now.
Right.
Hey, I want to go to a comment.
It's like been there and done that.
Jerome Bell, he says, he's speaking from Virginia, says, which churches have spoken out against these laws passed by this legislator and governor of Virginia? The church has been silent on our constitutional rights being taken, and also on the transgender LGBTQ agenda being perpetuated, perpetrated in our kids or so. So it's like, again, I guess the church, for us being silent on these social issues, we should get more involved in them as the body of Christ. Do you think that's what needs to be done, or speaking out?
As far as supporting the LGBTQ
All right.
movement,
Yeah. Well, it's like for those who don't believe in that, or so, like it's, what the church teaches. What the Bible says. I guess we need to be. I guess he's saying we need to be more outspoken, or so, against laws that go to protect them, the transgender and LGBTQ agendas.
outspoken in that we should not support them.
Jerome, you probably have to clarify what you mean.
His statement on the bottom, Dad, says that the church has been silent on our constitutional right being taken, and then also the transgender LGBTQ agenda being perpetuated on our kids. And now, even after I read it, I think that there needs to be a little bit of clarification on that, because I'm not really following.
I think I kind of understand what he's saying. He's basically saying that the churches are silent on a lot of issues. But what I wanted to kind of say in part is that, especially when churches take certain government fundings and receive certain tax breaks and things like that, it then becomes illegal for some churches to actually speak out on some things, as far as maybe from a certain position, maybe from the pulpit or in publications and things like that. So I think a lot of it has to do with a legal position and statuses that sometimes the churches kind of, by accepting fundings or accepting tax breaks and privileges, you kind of handcuff yourself on some things. So it takes individuals and leaders in different areas to really speak out on these things and not so much put too much weight on the actual church leaders, because most of the time you're only hearing from like one or two particular leaders in the churches. That's a perspective to think about to Jerome's question.
All right.
But let me just share how our pastor deals with that. I mean, we have homosexuals in our church, and I'm of the same opinion as my pastor, and that is that we're going to love people as they are, because we're not to judge. That's going to be done by God.
Mm.
I have no problem with homosexuality. My problem, because I believe what the Bible says, that it's an abomination, but I don't have any problem with homosexuality. I'm going to love people as they are. But what I won't do is I'm not going to celebrate it. And that's the position that our pastor takes.
Okay.
And that's the position, he takes as a church body. And again, we've got homosexuals in our church. You're going to go in any church, and probably half the black musicians are going to be and but you got to accept that. But I'm not going to celebrate it, and that's my problem with it. That's my personal problem with it, is the celebration of it, because I think that's what it's gotten to be. I was so disappointed, and again, this is my personal opinion. When this bill was passed to allow homosexual LGBTQ equal rights and all of this, and okay, I have no problem with that. But then when Obama lit up the White House to celebrate it, that's when I had a problem with it. And that's kind of where he lost a lot of my support.
Gotcha, man. Hey, I'm glad I'm not the only one that said that, because I always say if we didn't have no homosexuals, we wouldn't have no gospel music. So
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm just saying.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, but staying right there in that pocket, and I'm with that, loving people where they are, but at where do we cut off the line for tolerance? For instance, like we're into identity politics now. So a person is defining their gender by what they identify with. So if I have a coworker that visually to me looks like a woman, but she identifies herself as a male, but I refer to her as her in pronoun, that becomes offensive to her. My problem with that is, like, I have no problem with what you identify with, but I do have a problem with you making me trying to identify with that too. You know what I'm saying? Like, sure. If you feel that that's what you are, that's you. But when you're trying to make me acknowledge that, you know what I'm saying, that's not a truth for me. Like, I see that you're clearly a woman. Why are you trying to force me to play pretend with you? I mean, that's just my that's just my honest feelings about that. So I'm putting it out to the panel, like, how y'all feel about that? Where do we draw that line of tolerance? How do we be respectful to people of this nature, but also respectful to our own feelings and thoughts and opinions?
And I think Jerome's saying the same thing, ask the same question. Is that a problem? Now they are not orienting our young kids in school. So so where do we draw the line? Man, that's a tough one right there.
I'll jump on that just to really. I'm going to always take the biblical and the Christian worldview on it. So I do believe that it's a sin, like any other sin. So that's kind of like the root of where I come from. So I would find it um, interesting if a person is in a certain lifestyle to continually sit up, in a to be to comfortably sit in a ministry where the gospel and the word of God is going forth, and just to be comfortable in the lifestyle. Like I say, you can come on in. Like I always say, Jesus said, "Come as you are, but don't stay as you are." You know what I'm saying? There should be the word going forth. You should be praying, and the Holy Spirit should be dealing with you in such a way to address the lifestyle that you need.
That can be twisted. That's what they're saying. They're like, all right, I came and I decided I'm not gonna stay. Like
yeah, that's true. But I would just say that it still comes down to I think that if you're struggling with homosexuality is something different than just say, hey, this is who I am. I'm not trying to change. This is who I want to be. Who I want to be. I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to work on this. I can still accept the individual, but at the same time, I'll be hoping and believing that the Spirit convicts them of their lifestyle. And I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna have to ask you what you were born as, and I'm gonna have to call you that. That's
what I'm asking.
You take the stance of your mama called you Clay. I'm gonna call you Clay.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna call you.
Call you Clay.
I say Clay. Okay, wait, change his name too.
What's on your birth certificate?
What's on your birth?
But see, to what Ron is saying again, when do we draw that line? Because again, when it's making us, it's basically offending us to where, okay, look, I'm walking on eggshells, so you want me to respect your offense, but you want
to lose your job behind this.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, but remember, well, this is my opinion. The Bible says that offenses are going to come.
Correct.
Woe to him who the offense will come by, right? And so, as Dad says now, he's like, we love the people. We're all about service, right? So my opinion is that how can we encourage change if we're looking at lines of where do we stop? Because Christ didn't draw a line for us. He definitely didn't draw a line for me.
Yeah.
He crossed the line because I was turned away from what I knew to be right. And I remember Will, you said earlier, you said that you sit up under the teaching of the gospel, and the hope is that the word in itself will change you. Sometimes it happens immediately, right? And then other times it takes a little bit. So in my mind, this is just for me. This is me. In my mind, I have an obligation to one, love you enough that you can see Christ in me, right? And then the second one is to continue to stay in that vein of ministry. Because at that point, like we have the example where it says, Paul watered, Paul planted, Apollo watered, God got the increase. Look at the effect that ministry has had, not only on like the homosexual agenda, but then look at the alcoholic. Look at the person who is in like sin in regards to sex and pornography. Look at it from the marriage of restoration and the individual of a man actually stepping up and being who he's supposed to be, and a woman stepping up to who she's supposed to be, and a child doing what she's supposed to be, all because the word has been going forth. If it's just like the it's just like the entanglement thing. It's all a distraction, man. Yeah. It's all a distraction. In my mind, it's all a distraction, because at the end of the day, Christ is not going to be my concern is like what am I doing to be more Christ-like? Because when my name is called, I don't want it to be like, hey, like you turned your back. Because like I'll share with you, like in my family, I had and I asked this that's a whole fact, Kinetic. Like not all churches are silent, they just don't have big audiences.
Yeah.
So I remember, like in my own family, we have who we assumed was gay, and when I first came to Christ, I avoided this person, avoided him, right? Until he pulled me to the side and was like, "Yo, you gonna avoid me?" And we family. So, like my question to you, to our panel is that, you know, if you're spending time with someone, how can you turn your back on it?
Right.
Well, let me say this, to Ron, I think, you're saying, where do you draw the line? I don't think there is a line that you draw. That's who they say they are. We respect them for who they say they are. That still doesn't diminish who we say that we are.
Facts.
Now, I have, even though I agree with what the Bible says, that it's an abomination, this movement today, the homosexual movement, I think it's causing a lot of kids to experiment with sexuality.
Correct.
I can go back in my life, and even today, I mean, I think we can all do that. I've seen kids at 4 and 5 years old that I knew were going to be homosexuals, especially boys, more so than girls. Because a lot of girls grow up to be tomboys, grow up as tomboys, and then they flourish and they grow up into this beautiful flower, this beautiful feminine flower that God made them to be. But with boys, I've seen them at very early ages, and I know they're going to grow up to be homosexual. That's not experimentation. That's the part that I don't understand. And because I don't understand it, and knowing who I am as a Christian, I'm going to accept them for who they are. And that's what we have to do. It doesn't diminish who we say that we are. We're just respecting them for who they say that they are. And then, yes, we hope that, God will bring them out of that. And a lot of times he does. But then there are times that he can't or I wouldn't say he can't, forgive me for saying that, but he doesn't because there is no coming out because it's embedded in them.
Right.
And I'll add this, and then I'm going to get away from that subject. But I know, when it comes to science, I had a window dresser, a guy who used to come in at a men's store that I worked for before I opened my own business. And he was a window trimmer. That's all he did. He came in and he dressed the windows. He did displays. And he was very flashy. He wore flashy clothes. He didn't have any feminine airs about him, but if you saw him dressed and you didn't know who he was, that would be the first thing that you would think. And a couple of the other salesmen used to tease him. And, he would say, hey, we all have a little lavender in us, meaning that, we all have a little femininity in us. And I think when you look at, our makeup, male or female, you'll find that, we have a little lavender in us and they have a little whatever color that we may have masculinity in them. And I'll use my tailor, for example. My tailor was, when she came to the shop, she dressed beautifully. Sue.
Yeah.
Beautiful long hair, dressed very feminine and was very feminine. And then she would go home, ride tractors, and I won't say hunt snakes, but she would go out and kill snakes.
Okay.
So, that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. I'm a guy who loves flowers, and Dorian will tell you that. I like messing around and growing flowers, but that doesn't make me gay. Just like it didn't make my tailor, a lesbian because she went out and drove tractors and hunted alligators. Snakes. So we're all born with certain things that we're made up from, and I think sometimes that the true homosexual has an imbalance of either male or female genes that just plays out to who they are.
Right.
Yeah. Well, just like Jerome Bell says, said the law now diminishes who you say you are. The law says if you're a pastor in your church, you cannot even talk about it in your church. So, a lot of things have gone the jurisdictional way, and that's why we have to definitely be careful of what we say. And
right.
Is that like a real statement? Is that a true statement? Like,
yeah, that's what I want to know. Like,
they can't speak on that.
So, yeah.
Like, is it that they can't talk about it, or?
All right. Well, he's a former.
Well, I knew it was coming. Knew it was coming.
Dad, we
As of July 1st.
Yeah.
That's a July 1st in Virginia, I guess so.
wow.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Nancy want to know what you feel about reparations, Hank. He asks this question every week.
What's your thoughts on reparations?
He got one sermon. He preach it every Sunday.
Hey, that's what Noah did. Noah said it's gonna rain. Noah said reparations. I want
Reparations.
Make it rain, government.
Make it rain with reparations. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a hard question for me to answer because I think we have our due. You know, we have our due. Give me my equality. That would be enough reparations for me. Give me the same opportunity that you give this guy over here, and let me go get it. That's my reparation.
Wow. Take the hurdles out.
That would be my reparation. Otherwise, how do you disperse it?
Right. Well, you can give me more if you don't want it. Like that's
yeah.
That's a heavy statement from a man from his generation.
Yeah.
Still said, "Hey, give me my equality." You know, even from your generation, and knowing even our children and children, we may be asking for the same thing. You know.
Wow. Two things here though too. That like one, Will asked in our first broadcast, you know, what is it that we want? What is it that we want? And you know, we're still trying to come up with like a thought for that. And I think that your answer is it kind of stirs the pot a little bit and helping us to kind of think about what it is that we want. The second part is though, when you mention equality, the first thought that came into my mind was white privilege. What do you think about that?
Say it right. White blessings, boy. Say it right. Say it right, man.
White blessings.
Let me run and get my cord because my battery's running low. Let me go run and get my cord.
All right.
Yeah. Again, this is Culture Kings, Royal Rhetoric, and thank y'all so much for joining us. Any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free. Want to thank those who have definitely come on so far and joined in the conversation. Again, yeah, you know, we're talking with Dorian's father here, Hank, and a wise gentleman here, and thank God for him. Okay.
Hey, while we're on this, let's ask Carlos if he's going to sponsor us with those mint masks that he was pushing.
He's not a mint man.
Mint man.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that was a good answer, Jerome. That Hank gave. Yeah, definitely. You know.
Okay, I'm plugged back in now.
What Jerome was talking about though, the law.
Go ahead, Will.
No. Jerome, I'm still on Jerome's with the law, basically about what the pastors can't speak up. I didn't know if that was just Virginia or something nationwide. I'm gonna have to look that up, especially here in North Carolina.
Right. Yeah. So,
yeah. Go ahead.
So, Dad, what are your thoughts on white privilege?
Well, you know, we had that conversation in our meeting. And, you know, I defined it then as white unconsciousness. And that means that, you know, they don't have to think about things that we have to think about on an everyday basis.
Okay.
And it's a lack of intended, I don't think, but I think it's a lack of unintended empathy on their part. But with these protests now, everything is coming to the front, and they're realizing that, these things that they don't have to think about, that we have to think about. I mean, do I blame them for it? You can't. I mean, it's just
Right.
a matter of, the culture that we're in and the culture that we've been in. You can't blame them for that. But again, when you say, what do we want? It's just like reparations. Give me a level playing field.
Mm.
Give me my equality. Like Nina Simone said, you don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dad dropping a CD reference, Nina Simone. Go get it.
Yeah.
That's Sam Goody near you.
God damn.
Strange fruit.
You guys ever hear that piece she did, Mississippi? Goddamn.
No,
Oh, yeah.
You haven't listened to it. It's yeah,
I'm a
quite
Google.
a song.
Really?
And that's what she says in the song. You don't have to live next to me. Just give me my equality.
Mm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Do you think that most white people know that they have privilege?
Again, I think it's unconscious.
Okay.
I think it's unconscious. They go about their everyday life not thinking about, I'm going to be discriminated against, going into a bank, applying for a loan. They don't think about whether I'm going to be discriminated against because I'm black or I'm white. They don't have to think about those kind of things.
And I put a post where I said that I expressed the same sentiments that I don't think a lot of white people understand for American history, for the black enslavement, and this is a perfect time to help teach them about that. And some folks may have disagreed with me or so, but I'm under the same assumption as you that I don't think that they're basically just ignorant. So and just with the culture, they're just going along with it. So
yeah, and I think I said this in the group that Dory and I have been a part of, is that, and I tell black kids this all the time too. If you don't know any other history, learn about the civil rights era. In terms of white folk, they'll understand what we went through, to get the vote, to get integration. And we weren't so much about integration. We were more about leveling having a level playing field.
correct.
It wasn't fighting to live next to you or to go into a restaurant, because even after the civil rights bills were passed, it wasn't about going into, I think it was Jesse Jackson said it, that, okay, now you can go in and check in the hotel, but make sure you'll be able to check out.
Okay.
And that's because you had dollars to be able to check out.
Wow.
So it wasn't so much about then. It was all about, giving us a level playing field, equality. That's all I think we've ever fought for.
Okay, all right. Jerome says here is white privilege. White people can run for office as a Democrat or a Republican. They can vote for a Democrat or Republican, and people truly don't care. So here it is. White people have the freedom to think for themselves without being accused of being a traitor to their race.
I don't think that's true now, though. I mean, because like right now, I mean, I don't know if everybody saw that video where and I still don't understand the context of it, where the black guy was basically, he said that he was almost lynched by a group of white people, and it was white people who saved the black dude, and they call him a traitor. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that we don't have a common ground anymore. I don't think that there's like any happy medium. It's either you're far left or far right, whichever way whatever you want left to mean or whatever you want right to mean. If you have someone that's going to support the cause in regards to this movement, they're going to be considered a traitor to their race. Black people, one of the things that we have that is almost a it's comical almost, is that if you go into a circle that's unfamiliar to you, there's already a preconceived notion that you know how to rap, you know how to dance, you can talk that jive, you can talk that slang, and then when you come up different, and then
yeah,
try running, but like that. Let me finish my statement. I'm gonna jump on that too. But then, when we show the other side of that, though, then we're looked as white. You Oh, you ain't soulful enough because you ain't got that bounce that you see perpetuated on the television. So it's I think that we're in a time now where we have to be comfortable in who we are, and that also comes and that also comes with a reminder of whose we are too.
Right. Well, Jerome is talking from experience because he just ran here in Virginia as a Republican. I mean, he didn't win, unfortunately, but the fact is he's been ostracized because of him simply being a Republican.
Okay.
And like I hear what he's saying, because if you look at the entertainment industry per se, when Spike was attacking Tyler Perry, right? Right. Spike was like, hey, you need to make conscious movies and movies that show us in this light and this perspective, you know what I'm saying? And Tyler was making his movies, but behind the scenes, he was actually making power moves.
Right.
Right. So on the screen, you're like, oh man, why is he doing it? Why he dressing up like a woman? Why he presenting these stereotypical characters and all this? But behind the scenes, he was making moves, and so there was a judgment there. So that freedom is that white creatives can make any kind of comedy. They can make buffoonery. They can make biopics or whatever. They're not considered a traitor to their race, but it's like when we get in certain positions, it's an expectation from us. Like, hey, everybody's dependent on you. Like, for instance, just recently, our president, Barack Obama, it was a lot of expectation on him. Like, hey, man, you better represent. You better not make us look bad. You know what I'm saying? We got this one shot. Don't you screw this up, man. You know what I'm saying? So he don't really have the same freedom. So I hear what he's saying. I hear what you're saying. Like, it may be changing now, but it hadn't always been a level playing field.
Yeah, but I think that we're talking about the same thing. Like the one thing, like when we go back to the beginning of our conversation here with Dad, he said that when it comes down to service, we go back and we reach back and we bring people back up from where we belong to. And so when, like with Jerome's situation, I didn't know the background of that. So like that in itself is a power statement, because he's in a party that for whatever reason we feel like don't represent the cause for Black people. And Black people, we typically we're bandwagoners. Whatever's hot, we're gonna jump on that.
That's a good point.
We're gonna jump on that. So it's so then when you have someone that runs counterculture, we don't understand like what's going on behind that. Why and I'm gonna just run with the thought. If he's running for Republican, if he's running in a Republican Party, the idea is that he wants to create change. And to do that, he's got to know what's on the other side.
Correct.
But then to also do that, he's going to need support from the people that look like him.
Right.
And we can't seem, and I believe that Carlos says it a lot, even though we get a lot of reparation comments. It's the bringing of togetherness within the Black community to actually support one another. Each one of us, and I'm gonna say this broadly, but then I'm gonna ask Dad this too, because his answer can shape this whole thing. We all have had issues where we are pushing products, programs, projects, and we're looking for support from the community that we're from,
right?
And we don't get it. So, Dad, how many Black people support you in your business? And then also, how do you navigate that?
Well, I don't have a lot of Black support in my business, not because they don't want to support me, and please guys don't take this the wrong way, but they can't afford to support me.
Okay.
Because we sell luxury clothes. Our suits start at $1,225. In my community, there's not a lot of Blacks that can afford a suit for $1,225. in Jerome's place, let me address where we are with politics right now. And I'm a registered Republican, but as soon as the registrar's office open again, I'm going down and change my party affiliation to no party affiliation. Okay, because I don't believe in either party right now because of that great divide. There's never been the divide that we have right now in politics with Republicans or Democrats. And the whole system has gotten so corrupt. Both parties, I don't have any faith in either of them.
Amen. Exactly.
Now, and let me explain why I'm a registered Republican. Years and years ago, we had a very strong community activist here in Sarasota who was on a crusade to get blacks registered as Republicans because his feeling was that when all of us are registered as Democrats, the Democrats take us for granted. And because of that, the Republicans ignore us because they don't feel like they're going to get any support from us anyway.
Really?
So his crusade was about balancing the blacks in both parties so that they would both have to be accountable to us. Now,
that's good.
And I still believe that could be true, but not so much with the divide that we have today because the Republican Party has become so conservative that you can almost say conservative / racist. And
like it is.
Because of that, you're not going to get blacks registered as Republicans as it was back those many years ago when I changed my registration from Democrat to Republican. So what he was saying to me made a lot of sense, and I think it could make a lot of sense today. But me personally, as a black man, I don't have any confidence in either party because it's become so political. It's become such a divide that I think we've really lost our country because of politics. I sincerely believe that. And I understand your ostracization with, I'm sure it was from the black community. But let me give you another spin on this from maybe 20 years ago. Sarasota is a heavily Republican county. We have never had a Democrat on the county commission, even though it's nonpartisan. Okay. But we had a black woman who ran as a Democrat, won the election. Actually, she walked in because she was unopposed. And once she got in, she changed her party affiliation to Republican. Now, Sarasota is a very wealthy community as well. So she got so much backlash from the black community about changing her party affiliation from Democrat to Republican because she said, you sold us out. Her response to them was, look, the Republicans are in charge of this county. If we want something done, I have a better chance of getting it done as a registered Republican or as a Republican than I would as a Democrat. So that was her rationale, and it made a lot of sense to me. So I can't say that to be the case today. So I'm at a loss. When I say a loss, I mean I'm at a loss for where we are as a country because we are so divided, and I think politics is the big divide.
Right.
Wow. Well said. Well said, man.
That was wisdom.
Yeah.
All of that last 10 minutes bill was just dope. I'm like, yeah. And these are things that do need to be brought to the forefront because a lot of us, we vote, I'm thinking for my generation, we vote what our parents voted.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Our politics have been handed down to us, like many of us, our faith have been handed down to us, our morals, our values, all these things have been handed down to us, man. And it's not a whole lot of researching behind it. And then so what happens, like if someone from my generation, like right now, me and my mom at odds because she's like, she on this whole thing where I think with the country is that just vote Trump out. And I'm like, well, just vote Trump out is not a great strategy to me. You know what I'm saying? Because if you just trade in one guy for another guy, like what are we actually getting in return? It's got to be more than just vote Trump out. You know what I'm saying? who's going to get in here and really lead this country into the direction that we need to go?
Well, here's my thing on that. I wish the Democrats had a stronger candidate than Joe Biden.
I do
Right.
too.
First of all,
I do
because
too.
I don't think Joe's all there.
Yeah.
But I would vote for the dog catcher to get Trump out right. I know the direction he's taking us in.
So you take the dog catcher over Trump.
It can't be any worse.
My
It can't be any worse. And like he said to the black community, what have you got to lose?
What do you got to lose? Yeah.
What do we got to lose by getting his ass out of there? So I'm gonna take his words and turn them right back to him. What do we got to lose by getting you out of there? That's the only thing I want. And then we'll figure it out from there. But just let's get rid of him because I know he's not going in the right path.
Wow.
Especially relates to us as a people too.
Yeah, exactly. Earl Harbor says there's no good politics or policies. It's all just money. I like what Jerome said in response to Carlos. We can give ourselves reparations by supporting our own. I agree. We have $1 trillion spending party, but it leaves our neighborhoods daily because we own nothing in our hoods. And that's where I was kind of going towards earlier. It's like, how can we get to that mindset of unity of us supporting our own? I think it's just a matter of us trusting one another. So, yeah.
He's got it.
And you know what? That's something that we've been working on for 400 years.
Wow.
Trusting each other.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Longer
Trusting
than
each other.
Yeah.
I think if it's a broad stroke to just say, trusting someone and then pouring money back into your neighborhood, and it's like the age-old question: how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so, what's the one thing that we can get behind in our community to pour money into, to support, and find that feel good story about it, and then move on from there. It's like paying off debt. You start off with your smallest bills, and then you move that money up to like your bigger bill to pay off the big one off, to pay the big one off in the end. And it really goes back to what you said earlier, Dad. It's just like we just don't have a lot of leadership to actually navigate the thinking and to to help us on that wave of actually supporting the community, wanting to stay in the community, and then actually having that trust in the community to do what it's supposed to do with the bread that we have.
Yeah, there's that. See, you just touched on something that are conversations that I'm ready to have right now. Because to be honest with you, I'm about sick of talking about race,
facts,
and racism, and this.
Yeah,
I want to have conversations about what we can do as a people to turn us around.
Yeah,
it's so sad, but the welfare system now, and Phyllis, my wife, she says it quite a bit, especially we're talking about young girls now. And the mantra is have a baby, get a check.
Mm.
Isn't that sad?
That's very sad.
Have a baby, get a check. But that's what so many of these young girls are depending on. They're going out there, they're having these kids, and then they know they're going to get a check, and they stay home and they don't want to do anything, and then they're satisfied. I am, and I have been, and I'm getting at my wit's end with my church, as much as I love my church. But there's a friend of mine who has a Father Initiative program in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And it's about getting these young fathers involved with their children's lives. And they work with the court system.
Mm.
So instead of these guys going to jail because they're not paying child support, this program intervenes and says, if you come into this program, you can not go to jail, but you work within our program. But the essence of the program is to get them united with their children. And they found that once they get them united with their children, they find, oh, wow, this isn't so bad. This is where I need to be. So they become involved with their kids' lives. And then you start to turn around that kind of culture of these young boys just going out having babies and then walking away from them. But getting them involved with their lives. And they found also in that the program that they have, even the guys that are involved, they invite their friends in who may not have kids yet, and it stops them from going out having kids and being irresponsible about it. So we've got to work on programs for us to turn our culture around from, the irresponsibility that we have, and start correcting our values. When I'm talking about our values, I'm talking about misplaced values. Everybody jumped on Bill Cosby several years ago when he was talking about parents going out buying $300 sneakers and the kids didn't have a computer. Right. They were still doing the same thing. So we've got to change the way we look at values within our own community. Those are the kind of conversations I'm looking about having now, and how can we do this? And it can start with the churches.
For sure.
I agree. It should start with the churches.
Yeah.
Because the question is, who are our leaders? Right.
Yeah.
Now? It's like,
who?
Yeah.
And the church has always been that refuge and been that entity out front.
Right. I mean, and then when it go back to the trust issue, it's like, okay, somebody may have a great idea, like such as a Republican, like a Jerome Bell or whatever. Right. So, but again, certain black folks don't want to trust him just because he's a Republican, which is like, okay, but you got a plan that's going to work. And
that Willie Lynch.
Yeah,
they say it's not real, but we see it's evident, like the stuff that he wrote in that letter and the principles he laid out.
Right.
I've seen it operate, what I'm saying, in my circles. And, that's what it is, that Willie Lynch mentality, man.
And it's like, I want to be optimistic about things, but I'm like, man, we got to learn to trust one another. Yeah. So,
but let me, I want to just kind of, see, I have a different perspective. I mean, I understand what you're saying about like the churches being silent and things like that. And I grew up in an all-black church, but I'm a member of a multicultural church. And I honestly feel that that's how most churches should be, like multicultural. So like when you're saying the church, like when we're talking about us turning around as a people, are you talking about, okay, just churches that are predominantly black? Or like, is it the responsibility of multicultural churches and things like that to get together and do this? Or like maybe this is just something that we should do on a community level instead of, I think it sounds cliche. It can get a little cliche saying, hey, the churches need to do this and the churches need to do that. But I'm more so about the individuals, because like I said, if somebody like me, I love the black community and I want to see all of the stuff that we're talking about for our people. I want to see that done. But like, can I depend on my church to do that? I'm in a multicultural church where there's white, black, Hispanic, and all, and they're not going to necessarily have the same level of engagement as me. So why would it start on the church level?
Well, to answer your question, I think it's a matter of both churches. It's you find a need. I started my business on need. The men's store that I work for, again, before I opened my own shop, the owner said something one day, because I was talking to him about, why he opened his business. And he actually had moved down from Connecticut and retired to Sarasota and got bored. And asking him, questions about his business, he said, well, I got bored and I found a need and I filled it. And that need was for a luxury men's store, because there was nothing like that in Sarasota. And when I started my business, it was the same principle. I found a need and I filled it. There was nobody doing custom clothes in Sarasota 30 years ago when I started. So that same question is to both multicultural, even white churches for that matter, the need is there. You find the need and you feel it.
Mm.
But more so, I think, on the black churches because we're the ones who are involved with the struggle.
Right.
And not just the struggle of racism, but the struggle of making ourselves better.
That's good.
Because the better we make ourselves, I think the less, and this may sound strange, but the less we may have to deal with racism because, we can rise above it.
That's good. That's very good. All right, I want to go with what Ricky is saying as well too. He says we need a plan of action to move forth and bring change, but are we ready as a people to make consistent changes that will bring forth change that affects us as Black people? Can we handle running corporations? Can we improve our infrastructure so that are supporting our own businesses? Can we have our own banks, grocery stores, and put the strength of our dollar into our own hands? These are questions that must be addressed before we can move forward as a people. I definitely agree with that statement.
Good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Good stuff,
I would also tell Ricky too, and Dad, hold your thought. You got it? Okay. I would tell Ricky too that of the close to 500 businesses that are on the S&P, one of the 4 is a Black bank. So
Wow.
we do have the infrastructure, but the thing is though, is that trust issue. Because that Willie Lynch, as Will has spoken on earlier about, is so true, man. We get conditioned to believe that the business, if it's coming from someone who doesn't look white, that is not right.
It's not white. It's not right, baby.
Yeah, we've been conditioned on that.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing is we have to understand is that when we building businesses, we just can't depend on Black support.
Right.
We need to build businesses that's going to be supported by the general overall community. If I was depending on the Black Black population to support me, I never would have gotten off the ground. We've got to build. No, and because again, I sell luxury clothes.
Okay.
And everybody in the white community can't afford what we sell.
Okay.
But we've got to build businesses that's going to be supported by the general community. It's nice if, we support each other. And Dorian, you were saying it's so right, because it's Black, it's not going to be as good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I made sure of in my business. It was going to be as good or better than any white clothing store in Sarasota or anywhere else for that matter.
It's better.
And that's the way I built my business. And I'm not supported by the Black community.
Right.
Wow.
I think that's a mouthful right there.
Man, that sure is.
What's interesting, Mr. Hank, you went into that line of business knowing that, that's not where your support is going to be coming from. Was that, or did you go in just thinking that, okay, most of my people can't afford what I have to offer, but I'm moving forward anyway? Like, kind of speak to that, your mentality when you started.
Well, I didn't think about race at all when I started my business. Race was not a factor. I found a need and I was trying to fill that need. And that need was for custom clothing in Sarasota, and nobody was doing it. It never dawned on me that the only thing that dawned on me was the day that I opened. I said, okay, God, I've done this now. Now what? And, I had a nice clientele of white customers at the business where I worked, because it was in the upscale shopping area of Sarasota. We sold luxury clothes. That's how I learned the business. So I wasn't going to go back to something that I didn't know. Is what I knew. I've had guys come to me now and say, if you could, sell a little less expensive clothes, you could get more support. But I don't relate to less expensive clothes, and that it's not anything about, ego. It's just a matter of what I grew up with. I started buying my own clothes when I was 9 years old, and I was always attracted to quality. So I can't sell anything less than that. And it's something I know I never have to apologize for. And that's what I meant by when I was answering the guy's question about can we build businesses, grocery stores, and all of that. whatever we build, we've got to build it to the point where it's going to be supported by everybody. And that's the mindset that we need to take into it. Because if you're depending on one ethnicity to support your business, what happens when that ethnicity turns against you?
Come on now.
Dang, that's good.
Yeah. This is
That's a t-shirt.
this is hey, and see you've shown that you know your value, and so because I heard you mention something about folks ask was telling you if you sold a little less expensive clothes or so. It's like basically that's kind of asking for a hookup, pretty much. Hey, can you help a brother out? And man,
Oh yeah, I won't even go into that because that's the first thing we do is can you help a brother out? Yeah, I can help you out the door. But having said that, with the few black clients that I do have, they don't have to ask me for discounts. I give it automatically.
Wow.
I give it automatically. They don't have to ask for it. And that's what I can't say there's any one black client that came into my shop first time or as a repeat client that I haven't given a discount to. But it bothers me when they come in talking about hooking a brother up. Because they don't go out to the other stores and ask these people hook a brother up.
Yeah.
They don't take that to dealers, son.
Right, exactly.
Well, Hank, I like what you're saying because, if you're going to be in business, the main color should be green, right?
That's right. That's right.
But
That's right.
also,
because if you build a business just depending on black support, let me tell you, you're precarious from the beginning.
Right. But there is
the main mindset is you've got to build a business where you want everybody to come and support it. Now, it doesn't have to be luxury clothes. It doesn't have to be a luxury business, but you build it in such a way that everybody's going to come and support you. It could be a Dollar General store that you buy a franchise in, but you make it one of the best Dollar General stores there is.
The great
goes back to what Dr. King said. If you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best.
Be the best.
Okay. Yeah, but what I was going to say, though, but what you're saying is correct, but there still is a need within the black community. Like, we should own the local business. We should have some ownership or some people owning the local businesses that we're going to support. Our gas stations, convenience stores, and things of that nature. Dollar Generals, Family Dollars, Oh,
I'm not opposed to that at all. But
right. But if you have those in those particular areas, most of your clientele are going to be the surrounding community.
Yeah, but the only thing that you're going to get in black neighborhoods that business wise, when you talk about grocery store, the closest you're going to get to that is convenience store. You're not going to have service stations in there. There's going to be mom and pop service stations because, again, they can't compete with Racetrack, Wawa, and all the other big, service stations. Same thing with drugstores. You can't compete with those guys.
Think on that for a little bit. How come? Well, why we can't level that playing field as far as having black-owned corporations and entities like that?
No, we're talking. You're talking. From what I understood, you were talking about was black-owned businesses in black neighborhoods.
Right.
And that's fine, but I'm just saying it's a matter of what the community can afford to support.
Right.
We have hair salons, barber shops, convenience stores, and convenience stores are robbing us blind because now most of them are owned by the Arabs. We don't own them.
Yeah.
So they're robbing us blind.
We always had the black convenience store guy.
But again, that goes back to those days when we had to support one another. We didn't have any choice. In Little Sarasota, we had 2 or 3 gas stations. We had 2 or 3 taxi cab companies. We had a couple of restaurants. We had 2 little small grocery stores where you go in and buy fresh meat. And we were supported because we didn't have the big stores to compete with. Right. And they were right in the neighborhood. Transportation was not like it is today.
Right.
So we were forced to, support each other, if you will.
So now that we have choices, it's kind of hard to, I guess, to support exclusively, pretty much.
I don't think it's a matter of choices. Choices, of course, but it's also a matter of dollars and cents.
Mm-hmm. So like what? financial literacy, as Cole was saying?
Well, financial ability.
Okay.
Yeah, it's financial ability.
That's a strong phrase right there.
Yeah.
Financial ability.
Yes.
Ability. That's a T-shirt.
Hey, these guys buying $300 pair of Jordans and stuff like that, and I mean, hey,
Yeah, but that's a misplaced value too, though.
exactly.
Yep.
That's a misplaced value.
So it shows that we have, or they have the ability to do it, but again, that's that misplaced value, then, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
What else could you do with $300 and wear them out on your feet? And those same guys that's going out buying those $300 Jordans are still have kids out there running around that they not supporting.
Exactly. All right. Wow.
There is no greater misplaced value than that.
Man, these are some great questions. That's true. It has to be supported by the general community. So I'm not just saying the only ones who support Black-owned businesses is Black people, because even the state of Black people as a whole, we need help from other ethnicities to help us too. But at the same time, in order for the strength of the Black-owned business to grow, we need to support it. It has to be a collective effort to turn it around. Of course, we can't compete with the mate. Right. Exactly. Pretty much what Hank was saying. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Hey, we're about to wrap up the things. I want to thank y'all so much for tuning in, and so not to mention Ricky, Jerome, Cole. Hey, yes, you can. Well, again, financial literacy and financial ability. You have to go out and get that knowledge out there. I mean, pretty much, because we are the biggest spenders. So, out of any race. Let me see. All right, it's almost 7:30. Wow, time done flown by quick.
Rolling today, Mr. Hank dropping knowledge, man. We had to soak it up.
Yes, man, Mr. Hank, man, we sure appreciate you being on with us, taking the time. We definitely want to have you on again. If you don't mind or so, because
no, it was a pleasure being with you guys. I learned something from you, and I hope I was able to lend something to the group and to the conversation.
Yes, you did. Hey, you gave a lot of great wisdom. Dorian, yeah, go ahead. Any last words? Well, first we want to say happy early birthday to William Stokes. And so, hey, quiet storm.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got that surprise birthday party.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey,
man. Happy birthday, Will, tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Hey, Jerome, we can have you on. Jerome, I'll reach out to you, man. We definitely want to have you on one day. So, one Sunday. Okay, cool.
Well, brothers, I would like to end my, I try to enlighten the people with the thought or quote. And last night I was, just kind of thinking about our show today, and how I was fairly confident, very confident that we were going to be enlightened by Dad, and he was really going to drop some gems on us, and he did not disappoint. So, Dad, again, thank you so much for showing up with us today.
Awesome.
Enlighten us, but then also informing us too. I tell people a lot. I stole one of your books from out of your library, and so one of the things that we kind of use as a mantra here, it actually comes from Up From Slavery, where Frederick Douglass was told by his mentor, with every word that you speak, to give someone an idea. And I think more than anything, like today, you gave us more than an idea. Yes. You really enlightened us today, and I'm so thankful that you were able to come on with us today.
Well, it was my pleasure again. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, hey, Will, go ahead real quick. Any last words?
Man, enough has been said. I'm over here. I'm a sponge, man. I'm still just soaking up everything. So, awesome job, Mr. Hank. Well, good seeing you again, though. Thank you for everything that you shared with us.
Yeah, good to see you too, Will.
Yes, sir. Your time and your wisdom. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, hey, the thing I see where Dorian gets his wisdom from and everything, man. And
Hey, listen, Dorian is wise in his own right. Believe me, I learned a lot from him. We learn from each other, and that's what we should all do: learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Well,
You know, Gomer Pyle. I'll end it with this: when you're talking about learning, Gomer Pyle, as simple as he was, said something I'll never forget in one of these shows: that every man is my superior, and that I may learn from him.
all right. Amen. Awesome. Well, he just took from you and just multiplied it. So, hey, hey, thank you so much. And I look forward to having you on again and learn some more great wisdom from you. And for those out there tuning in, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Culture Kings. And they say, well, Dorian is an old soul. Yeah. Yeah, old soul. Yes, tune in. Hey, go join our Facebook page. All right. Culture Kings on there. We would love to connect with you out there and spread the word. Hey, thank you so much, Ricky. All right. Yeah, every Sunday right here at 6 o'clock, as we talk about controversial issues and social issues that's going on today. Hey, because you are a king if you are a leader in your community or and that's in starting with your family and whatever else that God has called you to do. Remember, you matter in the kingdom of God. So don't pray yourself or your ministry to anyone else to do what God's called you to do. You'll be just fine. All right. Peace. God bless and stay safe out there, y'all.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Peace.
Love you guys.
Love you too.